Hello everyone! Welcome back to my GH Spoiler channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. General Hospital, today's full episode recap, March 3rd, 2026. Sidwell's tragic plan to kill Lucas exposed. Port Charles will never be the same. By GH Buzz. Hold on to your seats, General Hospital fans, because Monday's episode delivered the kind of gut-punching, jaw-dropping drama that reminds us exactly why this show has kept us glued to our screens for over 60 decades. If you thought last week's shocking cliffhanger was the peak of this storyline, think again. Today, the walls finally came crashing down on the most sinister conspiracy Port Charles has seen in years, and not everyone is going to make it out alive. Brace yourselves. This is the recap you've been waiting for. The morning calm before the storm. The episode opened deceptively quietly at the Metro Court, where Carly was nursing a coffee and scrolling through her phone with the kind of nervous energy that only comes from knowing something terrible is lurking just around the corner. She's been piecing things together for weeks. The missing files, the overheard conversation, the suspicious wire transfers, and today was the day it was all going to converge. Meanwhile, across town at General Hospital itself, Lucas Jones arrived for his morning shift completely unaware that his life was hanging by the thinnest of threads. He was bright-eyed, cheerful even, pausing to chat with the nurses at the station and checking in on a young patient in pediatrics. Watching him in those opening minutes, knowing what was coming, was almost unbearable. Director Monica Quartermain pulled Lucas aside briefly, mentioning that a new pharmaceutical consultant had been requesting a one-on-one meeting with him specifically. Lucas barely blinked. Why would he? He had no idea that name, Sidwell, was the last name he should ever agree to meet alone. Sidwell steps into the light. If you've been following the Sidwell arc since November, you know that this shadowy figure has been operating from the absolute margins of Port Charles society, pulling strings, bribing officials, and embedding himself into the hospital's administrative infrastructure with terrifying patience. Today, Damien Sidwell finally stepped fully into the light, and what we learned about his endgame was nothing short of chilling. In a flashback sequence, masterfully edited and scored with that low, building dread the GH production team does so well, we saw Sidwell 3 months ago meeting with a mysterious contact overseas. The target was made clear. Lucas Jones had uncovered financial irregularities in the hospital's organ procurement records that pointed directly back to Sidwell's underground network. Records that, if brought to the authorities, would dismantle everything Sidwell had spent a decade constructing. Lucas had to be silenced, permanently. The plan was elegant in its evil simplicity. A pharmaceutical compound, virtually undetectable in a standard tox screen, delivered through a routine flu vaccine that had been preloaded and flagged specifically for Lucas's patient profile in the system. All Sidwell needed was access to the medication cart, and thanks to his fake consultant credentials, he had exactly that. Brad's conscience exploded. Here is where the episode truly caught fire. Brad Cooper, who has been walking a razor's edge between self-preservation and genuine guilt all season, finally broke wide open. In the episode's most emotionally devastating scene, Brad cornered Bobby Spencer in the hospital chapel. Yes, the chapel, because this show knows how to frame a confession. And with tears streaming and hands shaking, he told Bobby everything. He knew about the plan. He had known for 2 weeks. Sidwell had approached him, threatened him, leveraged his past against him in the most vicious way possible. Brad had told himself he could find another way out, that he could warn someone anonymously, that he could fix it without blowing up his own fragile second chance at a normal life. But watching Lucas laugh with a patient that morning, watching his brother-in-law be so alive, Brad simply couldn't do it anymore. Jacqueline Zeman's legacy loomed large in that chapel scene. Bobby's response was exactly the kind of fierce, protective, tearful love that has defined this character for generations. She didn't yell. She didn't collapse. She grabbed Brad by the collar and said with absolute iron in her voice, "Then we go right now. We move right now, or I will never forgive you as long as I breathe." It was the scene of the year. Full stop. The race through the halls. What followed was 12 minutes of some of the most propulsive, edge-of-your-seat television General Hospital has produced in recent memory. Bobby racing through the hospital corridors, Dante getting the call from Carly and sprinting from the parking garage, Elizabeth realizing something was wrong with the medication flagging system and trying to pull the vaccine before it reached the cart. Every storyline that has been building for months suddenly converging in real time, in one building, on one afternoon. And Lucas, bless him, had just been handed the preloaded syringe by a nurse who had no idea what she was holding. The intercept happened with literally seconds to spare. Dante burst through the exam room door. Bobby shouted. Lucas froze, the needle still uncapped in his gloved hand, confusion written across his face as the room filled with noise, and the full weight of what almost happened began to dawn on him. He sat down on the exam table slowly, very slowly, like someone whose legs simply stopped working. Sidwell cornered, but is it over? Sidwell was apprehended in the hospital's lower level, attempting to access a service exit with a bag that Dante later confirmed contained a second contingency, evidence specifically that he had planned to plant on Lucas to discredit him posthumously if the initial plan was ever questioned. The man thought of everything, except Brad's conscience. As Sidwell was cuffed and walked through the main lobby, past nurses and orderlies and patients who had no idea who this man was or what he'd nearly done, the camera held on his face. No panic, no rage, just that same cold, measuring expression he's worn all season. He looked directly into the camera for just a moment before the doors closed. That look said one thing very clearly. This isn't over. The aftermath, tears, truth, and an ending that will wreck you. The final act belonged entirely to Lucas and Brad. Sitting together in an empty break room, the door closed, the chaos of the afternoon still ringing in the walls around them. Lucas still processing, Brad hollowed out by guilt, unable to look his brother-in-law in the eye. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" Lucas asked, quietly, without anger, which was almost worse. Brad had no answer that was good enough. He knew it. Lucas knew it. The audience knew it. But when Lucas reached over and put a hand on Brad's shoulder, not forgiving him, not yet, but not walking away either, there was not a dry eye in any living room in America. These two have one of the most complicated, layered, genuinely earned relationships in daytime television, and today proved exactly why. The episode closed on Monica alone in her office, staring at the hospital's organizational chart on her wall. Someone had circled Lucas's name on the administrative directory in red marker, a discovery that suggests Sidwell may have an accomplice still walking these halls. Port Charles, your nightmare is far from over. What's coming next? Tomorrow's episode preview teased a stunning development, a familiar face from Lucas's past arriving in Port Charles with information about Sidwell's network that changes everything the audience thinks they know. Plus, Carly makes a decision that will blindside Jason, and the results of a crucial lab test finally come back, with results that nobody expected.